Okay, everybody, here we go for yet another Ask Me Anything for the CrossFit Linchpin private track, closed Facebook group here. Lots of good questions as always. Got my answers scratched out. I've got a cup of coffee. Let's do this. First, most upvoted one was from Matt. And Matt's just basically checking in on the CrossFit community. He wants to know how many linchpinners are we? What kind of orders of magnitude are we talking about? That people that are in the private track, follow the workouts on a regular basis, gyms around the world, people that are following on Instagram. Can you give us a sense of their background, diversity, location, age, basically all the stuff. Matt wants to know all the stuff. There's a bunch of us. There's a ton of us. There's over 2,000 here just on the closed Facebook group, and there's a whole bunch more that aren't on Facebook. So we've got a couple thousand there on Facebook, a tremendous amount more that aren't on Facebook, and I don't blame them, right? I mean, most people, when you say the word Facebook, it doesn't make them smile and be like, oh yeah, that platform that just yields positivity and support and awesomeness. So I get a lot of people's reluctance not to get on there. Hopefully they hear this, and again, it's just not lip service. Our page, the Linchpin Private Track closed Facebook group, it actually is different. I know I sound like I'm just spreading propaganda. I am not. It is a wonderful, supportive community, and I encourage anybody who's listening to this who is a member of the private track, who maybe has been on the fence, create a Facebook profile. Don't even upload a photo. And just make it a private account. Submit a request. I'll make sure that you're an actual member of the Linchpin Private Track, and then you can come on in and you will see for yourself that it's incredible. And then how many people just follow on Instagram and around the world, I don't know. I mean, I get tagged in a tremendous amount of social media posts, an overwhelming amount of social media posts. So I have no clue. I can just say a lot, which is really cool, because it warms my heart to know that so many people are benefiting from it, and it warms my heart to know that there is that much of a thirst and desire for just unfiltered, brutally elegant, constantly varied, just classic, effective CrossFit programming, that there's that many people that are like, yes, that's what I want. So I'm a human being, right? I mean, that fills me with pride. It does make me feel good. So Matt, there's a ton. And as far as the average age, nationality, sports background, fitness level, all that kind of stuff, I mean, you posted that in the Facebook group, and I would say that you get an excellent cut of the pie just being in that Facebook group and seeing what occurs on a daily basis. So, I mean, somebody asked a question a couple months ago of like, hey, what's everybody's age range? And we had people as young as 18 years old to somebody in their early 60s. So from 18 years old to the early 60s and everything in between. The lion's share was probably in that, 30s, in the 30, late 20s, 30s, early 40s, like that. That's probably the lion's share, but we had everything from 18 to 60, which makes sense, because that's CrossFit right there. And we've got people, as you know from being in there, from all around the world, different cultures, languages, the whole 9 yards. Some people who are brand new to CrossFit and just learning the movements, other people who are ferocious animals of fitness and everything in between. Some people whose goal one day is just to do the workouts prescribed, and that's fantastic. Other people who have to scale every single day. We got it all, which is really cool, because that was my goal when I started. I wanted to connect with real people, just the real CrossFitter, and help them out. And it kind of worked out. How that worked out, I don't know, but it did. So I'm very happy about that. So Matt, yes, we got it. We got it all for you. And I don't want to say this, because I don't want it to come off the right way, but the people that we get at Linchpin, we get the right people. Now, I don't know, what does that mean, the right people? Does that mean some people are wrong? Not necessarily, but what I mean by the right people is people who get it. People who understand that the value of respecting a heavy day. People who understand the value of uh, that scaling is cool. People who understand that you got to get your ego out of the way and potentially scale or modify movements that, present you with some variants that are outside your wheelhouse. But in doing that, wonderful adaptations are going to come your way regarding your fitness. And they don't just cherry pick every workout and just do stuff that they like. Like, they really get it. And they understand that helping other people also helps them. And we see that every day in the Facebook group as well. So I don't know how we did it. Just the luckiest people in the world, but we got the right folks, and they're fantastic. So I'm very proud. Okay, next question. This is a relatively common one. It won't take too much time to hit. This is from Phil. Phil, where are you? Okay, so Phil says, you've seen this come up a lot in the feed, but when saving up for that first piece of cardio equipment, should it be one of the air bikes? Should it be a Concept 2 rower, a ski erg, a treadmill, etc.? What would I recommend to start with, and why? Let's get right to it. First of all, they're all wonderful, right? I mean, you wouldn't be sad to walk out into your garage and see any of those pieces of gear. Second of all, if you said, nope, I want to hear which one you would get first, and if you could only have one, which would it be? Then my answer is the Concept 2 rower. Don't get me wrong, I want them all, but if I could only have one, the Concept 2 rower. And I would say that gets my nod for the range of motion which it puts your body and musculature through. If you look at the range of motion that your joints will move through the air bike and the ski erg or on a runner, you're going to get a far better range of motion there. And it is more demanding of technique. On some of on the air bikes, you're kind of locked into the range of motion. You can just kind of do it. Even if you're a bit sloppy, you can only be so sloppy because the pedals and the handles move as they move. On the rower, it is demanding of technique, and that core to extremity sequencing is going to beautifully translate over to things that we do with the barbell, the dumbbell, and so it is a wonderful piece of gear, and you can sprint on it, you can go moderate, you can go long, you can do whatever you want, and it's bomb-proof. It's bomb-proof, don't get me wrong. The Rogue Echo Bike is bomb-proof also, but I've got two Concept 2 rowers, one of which still works. I just changed the batteries. Whenever it changes the batteries, it's moved all around the United States with me. It's probably been to like 5 different states, treated roughly. That thing is probably, I don't know, 13 years old. Works like a champ, no issues, and so that would get my nod. It's a phenomenal piece of gear, and you can just tilt it up on its side. Doesn't take up much room. It's great. So yes, would love to have them all, and I would really. I don't have an air runner. I would love to have an air runner. Just living up here in the Pacific Northwest, 8 months out of the year is just junk weather. I would love to have an air runner in the garage. I got to make room, and I don't have it yet, but that would be awesome. Okay, and I do have an air bike in the garage, which I love, but if you ask me, number one, Concept 2 rower. Okay, let's see. Aiden, where is your question? It's a great question. Here we go, okay. Here's his question. Apologies, my wording may be off in my question as follows. When an individual is constantly scaling workouts with strength being the main prohibitor, what advice would you give? Is it time to focus more on building that strength for a while and not paying as much importance or attention to intensity? I hope this makes sense. Great question. I think it makes sense just fine. So, coming into CrossFit, and I remember doing this myself, a lot of the loadings in the prescribed workout, challenging. Just the prescribed workout. I remember coming into CrossFit from just a regular background and seeing a workout like Grace, and I'm supposed to take this 135-pound bar and explosively get it to my shoulders and then get it overhead. I'm supposed to do that 30 times. You're out of your mind. So even prescribed workouts can be quite challenging, let alone anything above and beyond that. And this might be a common thing, somebody coming in and struggling with the loadings, the strength piece a little bit, especially if you're coming from maybe an endurance background, more of a runner, a triathlete, a cyclist, whatever it happens to be. And this was me, quite frankly. I lived this life, and all of my friends that we got into CrossFit at the same time back in '05 lived this life as well. Because even though we were coming from the military, we were basically endurance athletes. I mean, that's really what we were in the military. The military in the special operations community was just death by volume. Everything was long, hours long, tons of volume. And then when we did go into the gym, we're a bunch of dudes. So what are we doing? Bench press. So bench press, and then, no squats, no deadlifts, no nothing like that. I mean, the working of the legs would be leg extension, leg curl, things of that nature, relatively things that aren't going to translate well to squats and deads and functional movements. So I was really quite weak, to be honest with you. I could run and swim, and it was fairly decent with body weight movements coming from the military. A lot of push-ups, pull-ups, dips, that kind of stuff. But strength, no good. I remember first doing CrossFit and doing the workout of the day, which was a 7x1 deadlift. And when I first started CrossFit, I maxed out my 1 rep max deadlift at 275 pounds. That was all that I could lift on the floor. And I'm sure my technique was horrible, and I just about blacked out from the effort. I mean, it was an all-encompassing effort to get 275 off the ground once, and that was it. So 300 was way out of the question. Way out of the question. Squats were equally terrible. Now, fast forward, me doing nothing but one workout of the day. One workout a day. That's it. Just classic CrossFit. Now people are impatient. This could be another topic, right? As to how quickly people would like to obtain some goals instead of just being patient. And so I scaled workouts as I needed, not because I thought scaling was cool and not because I actually understood the intention behind scaling. I was a knucklehead back then, just doing it in my garage. I scaled workouts because I had to. Period. End of story. Because if Diane came up, there was no way I could do a 21:15:9 with a 225 deadlift. Like I just said, my 1 rep max was 275. Diane would take me 4 hours. So I scaled workouts begrudgingly because I had to. And even doing that, the wonders of scaling took hold. And I slowly started to improve. And then when the heavy days rolled around, I just lifted whatever I could. And little by little, those numbers went up. And little by little, I would still have to scale, but instead of scaling Diane to 185, I scaled it to 195. And then, 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, I scaled it to 205. And then a year and a half later, I was doing Diane with 215. It slowly built, and that's what scaling and building generally is. Whether you realize it or not, it is a nice, slow progression, and it takes place. And so anyway, fast forward 3 to 5 years, because it takes a while to build capacity. It takes a while to build strength, true strength. It takes a while to build an engine. So I went from initially almost blacking out doing a 275-pound deadlift to deadlifting 480 pounds. And that's about 3 to 5 years later. I'm a little foggy on the time because it's been 16 years now. But let's say 3 to 5 years. So in a 3 to 5 year window, so let's split the difference and call it 4 years. So in 4 years, just doing one workout a day, just doing classic CrossFit, scaling as I needed, putting my heart and soul into the strength days when they came up, resting when I needed to rest, I put 205 pounds on my deadlift with nothing on the side, no extra, nothing. And my experience, by the way, sometimes it's bad to use yourself as an example. I'm using myself as an example because my story is not remarkable, is not particularly interesting, and is not unique. It's relatively common. And every other single one of my knucklehead friends that started with me with our same terrible capacity experienced the same thing. It works. So your question is, somebody who has to scale for strength, should they where does it say here? Should you spend some more time focusing on building that strength for a while and not paying as much importance to intensity, or maybe variance would be another way to say it? I would say not necessarily. Not necessarily. I'm not going to give you a hard no, but I'm going to say not necessarily. Because I think that's one of the myths, and I'm not saying that you believe this myth, but it's one of the myths or misconceptions, maybe a better way to say it, about CrossFit, is that CrossFit is a conditioning program. Because you see people breathing hard, laying on the ground in a pool of sweat, it looks like conditioning. And there's plenty of conditioning for sure. But a properly laid out CrossFit protocol, CrossFit is a strength and conditioning program. And both should improve, and both should improve nicely when applied with relative intensity, scaling as needed, and with that wonderful, elusive human trait of patience and consistency. Now, with that being said, like I said, I wouldn't give you a hard no, okay? Because there certainly are times where something extra makes sense. And that's also the other thing about a beautifully laid out GPP program. It's all you need. Period. End of story. It's all you need. It will get you to the promised land if your goal is fitness, work capacity across broad time and modal domains. But if you would like to do a little something on the side, we live in a wonderful free country. And if you enjoy it and you have the free time, and doing a little something extra won't overtax you and leave you too tired, a little stressed out, muscles aren't recovering, well then we're not going in a good direction, right? Kind of more is not better in that aspect right there. But if you wanted to play an experiment, you got my full blessing. Not that you need it, but absolutely, we're just working out. We're not splitting atoms, so we don't need to make it more stressful than it is. You want to do a little something, do a little something. And great things to supplement or try as part of your subscription. You get the wonderful Beyond the Whiteboard software and application. Go into the Beyond the Whiteboard app. In the upper left-hand corner, click those 3 lines. You'll get a drop-down menu. And then one of the drop-down menus, I believe, says specialty programs, and they are phenomenal, and there's over 15 of them. Well, there's one for squat, there's one for deadlift, there's one for whatever you want. And those are basically 6 to 8 week, beautifully laid out, structured programs specifically working on increasing the capacity of that singular lift. And so you may want to go ahead and I would recommend just doing one. I wouldn't double up, but maybe just tap on that old squat program and just give that a whirl 2 or 3 times a week. Do it for 6 to 8 weeks and enjoy and see how it works for you. And if that finishes and it went well and your body felt good, you could still do the workouts of the day. It wasn't too much, for example, then you could do the deadlift one if you want, or the squat one, whichever one I didn't say. And if you are currently doing the workout of the day and the optional accessory work in and of itself is a significant dose of additional training. That's why it's optional. That also will get you to the promised land. And if you are doing both, and you're going to add in something like one of the specialty programs, the squat or the deadlift, I would probably do that in place of the accessory work, just to not have too much on your plate, overtax you to some degree. I see a comment here from TJ. Thank you for emphasizing the patience aspect of this. Definitely losing track of that sometimes. Without a doubt. I mean, everyone's impatient. Everybody wants it yesterday. It is what it is, right? And most people don't see the years of grind behind the scenes. What's that saying that it takes 10 years to become an overnight success? I think it's kind of one of those deals. Okay, so that was a great question. Next question was from Rob B. Rob, where are you, my friend? Let's see, I think you're kind of near the top. Scrolling. Rob, okay, here we go. As a busy parent, what steps do you take to ensure you get fitness in? Specifically balancing work, sleep, healthy-ish, love that you put the ish in there, healthy-ish cooking, quality time with the kids, working out, etc. Whew. Right? Great question. How to do that? So, I had a nice little answer when I scratched this down, and I might go off script here. So, how to juggle all these things: work, sleep, food, quality time, be a parent, be a husband, be a dad, all that kind of stuff. And we've got 3 kids now, so I'm a stepdad to 2 amazing, awesome, phenomenal young men, Deacon and Nash, 11 and 9 years old. They are, of course, I'm biased. They're phenomenal. Love them with all my heart. And then now I've got a little 16-day-old baby, little baby Lane. And so, I'm a biological parent. I'm a step parent. So I've got 3 kids. I've got 2 dogs. I've got a global community that I have to provide all kinds of content for. And on top of content, pour my heart and soul into actually making the workouts what they need to be, and the warm-ups and the cool-down, the accessory work, and it all needs to link together in this beautiful symphony to get people where they need to go. And I also have to be a husband. I wouldn't mind some free time. I have to work out. You got to eat. You have to sleep. It's just, and my story again is not unique. Fill in those responsibilities with whatever you have. Everybody's just busting at the seams, busy. Any single one of my friends that I talk to is experiencing the same sort of deal, right? It's a very rare occasion that I talk to anyone. I'm like, how are things going? They're like, man, I got so much free time just hanging out. I don't even know what to do with myself. I just sleep in every day. All the bills are paid. Don't have to worry about that. All my meals are made. And just kind of lounge around all day, just chilling. I don't speak to anybody like that. Everybody's running around like a maniac with their hair on fire, trying to do 1,000 things all the time. So again, my life is not unique. I'm sure your life is quite the same. So how do you make it work? So I hope everyone knows. Again, we're friends, right? And I'm not going to lie to you. I hope everyone knows that I do my very best to articulate messages, which is a large part of what I do for a living. I communicate. To articulate messages in a way that is well received, because why would I try to make the message not well received, right? And often the way to do that is with empathy and kindness, and it truly is, quite frankly. It is. You shut people off by barking orders at most people. It shuts them off. But to answer this question, I will try to answer it with as much empathy and kindness as I can, but then there's a little bit of, I don't know if harshness is the right way that's going to come in, but a little something special, a little wizard pepper is going to come in as well. So I think first of all, you control what you can control, right? Last night, for example, little Lane, our 16-day-old daughter, she did not care that I had to do and ask me anything at 7 in the morning. We had a terrible, terrible night of sleep. I'm currently exhausted. It is what it is, right? And there's a warm, empathetic, well, it'll get better. That's okay. You could try this. You could try that. There's an empathetic way to that. Here's the harsher, more cold aspect that I fall into this camp on days like today. I tell myself, nobody cares. Nobody cares that I'm tired. To include myself. Things have to get done. Get those things done. And just don't complain. This is what I tell myself. Okay, I'm not this harsh with other people. And this is definitely a window into my previous occupation in the SEALs, right? There were life lessons that were instilled in me and that I learned there that I couldn't get anywhere else. And it was a very harsh, demanding, unforgiving, relentless, merciless environment of just sink or swim. And the way that we did business potentially at times was a bit cold, but it was very effective. And what I mean by that is, discipline reigns supreme. So in that former occupation of mine, nobody cares about your personal needs. Period. End of story. Nobody cares what you want to do. Nobody cares if you didn't take the time to prep a meal. Nobody cares if you didn't sleep well. What is absolutely top of the priority list is the mission, the objective, whatever it is that you have to accomplish that day. That reigns supreme. And anything that is selfish or individual or, your needs, don't even bring them up. Do your job. Do what has to get done. And then once everything is done, if you have a shred of time left, then you can go ahead and, I don't know, address your personal needs. So, I know that's very cold and harsh, but that little, monster lives in me somewhere. And it is useful every now and then, and it comes out in times where I just have to grind. Just gotta grind. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. Get it done. And so, with 3 kids and 2 dogs and, life being busy and all that, and, work never stops and you gotta do what you gotta do, would I like to... Did I hear that there's a good Netflix series on? Yes, I did. Have I watched it? No, I have not, because I don't have time. That's a personal need, and so that goes into the trash can to make sure that I'm handling everything that my wife needs, that our 3 children need. Dogs got to get fed. They can't do that themselves. They got to get exercise. Like, all those other things have to happen. And luckily, my wife and I are a good team. And so, she'll take the baby or do whatever to make sure that I can sneak out in the garage for 20 to 40 minutes, because we're doing our time with the newborn right now, so time is precious. Get something in, then we'll swap so she can get something in. And then I just have to be disciplined at a certain time I could work 24 hours a day if I want. That's a flaw of my personality, at the exclusion of my family, and that would not be a good way to live on planet Earth, but I could do it, and that's bad. So I also have to have the discipline at a certain point in the day or the evening to shut the computer down, because there'll always be more work coming in. There will always be another email. There will always be another project. There will always be something else. So if I waited until that was done, it would never end, and I would shut out everybody else in my life, and that would be terrible. So at a certain point in time, I just need to realize the day is done, and I have to give that attention to my family, my kids, and whatnot. If not, that's going to be something that will... talk about a regret on your deathbed. That's not the life that I want to live. So it's a juggling, it's a balance and juggling act, and I'm certainly not here to say that I do it right all the time. Sometimes the pendulum swings one way, sometimes the pendulum swings the other way, but I try my very best to have it be neutral to the best of my ability. And I think this also works into something which we talked about a while before in a previous linchpin conversation, which was that concept I have of the drone of scrutiny, right? Whereas if this small, invisible, whisper-quiet drone, the drone of scrutiny, just hovered over your head 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 31 days a month, and saw every decision you made, every decision you didn't make, what you did prioritize, what you didn't prioritize, how you spent every minute of your time, I think most of us would realize that we had 30 minutes somewhere in that day to get in a quick workout, but we didn't. We made some other decision that was, easy to do in the moment, whether it's just sitting down on the couch and putting your feet up, which, we all need that every now and then, so I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. Or you turned on the TV for a little mindless television because you just needed that decompression. Again, I'm not issuing a judgment against anyone. I'm just saying that if a drone of scrutiny saw every minute of your day, and then some sort of emotionless cyborg analyzed your day, they could probably find 30 minutes in there. And so I kind of keep that in the back of my head that, when the day closes, it's on me as to how I spent my time. Did I get in a workout, or did I catch up on a Netflix series? And getting in that workout will help me achieve my goals far more than the Netflix series. So, anyway, that's it. That's it, again, not to be cold or harsh, right? But we do these AMAs on Thursdays. I just don't do these AMAs on Thursdays that I slept well, right? Nobody cares. Things have to happen when they have to happen, and you just make them happen. You grind it out, you make them happen. And hopefully you don't crash and burn. So it's all good. All right. Next question is from Melissa, and it's on food. I think this one, and Rob, another one, a little coffee doesn't hurt. And also, that's the wonderful thing, before I get to Melissa's question, getting back to Rob's question, it's the wonderful thing about CrossFit. When time is short, it doesn't take that long to get in tremendous fitness. I mean, how amazing is that? Like yesterday we had the Ghost. The Ghost is 24 minutes long. I had 30 minutes. Perfect. I walked out there. I did not warm up, because the Ghost is, we're not dealing with any loading. We're talking about rowing, burpees, and double unders. And there's a minute rest worked in there every now and then. So I just walked out, used the first round or two as somewhat of a warm-up, got it in. I was back in the house covered in sweat, but I was back in the house in 24 minutes. That's cool, Like I can find 24 minutes, and so there's CrossFit is a lifesaver. Okay. Second to last question. This is from Melissa. Random question, here she says. But I've noticed a couple of your food posts recently. The last one being at your boys' lacrosse game, and you and Emily had mixed fruit and a chicken salad. Do you tend to stay away from bread or processed foods? I currently track my macros and would love to hear your advice as your go-to meals or any rule of thumb, tips or tricks. So, that's another thing, kind of getting back to Rob's question as well, right? How to manage all this stuff. We know we have things coming up, kids' sports games or whatever. Just got to have that discipline the night before, prep that meal so that the next day when you get up and you're sprinting out the door with the kids or whatever it is, that's just handled and taken care of. But then you're not at some sports field, far from home, starving, and then you have to go up to the food truck vendor that's selling like Philly cheesesteaks or something and make a bad decision. So the discipline to look forward and have a little bit of prep time goes a really long way. But back to your question, Melissa. In general, I try to stay away from processed foods. In general, I do not do that all the time, okay? But I try to have most of my meals be some sort of a meat and then fruits or vegetables on the side. And if the meat's fatty, then that's good. If the meat's not fatty, I'll have some avocado, things like that. So I try to eat pretty darn clean. That old CrossFit saying of, meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. No sugar being like refined sugar, processed foods. I try to do that the majority of the time, but if we go out to a restaurant and there's a good cheeseburger on the menu, don't get me wrong, I'm ordering the cheeseburger, and I'm not asking them to wrap it in lettuce. I'm hoping that there's a delicious sourdough bun encasing that cheeseburger, and maybe for that sourdough bun, before they did it, they covered each side of the bun in butter, set that bun on the grill so they kind of toasted it just a little bit so it's golden brown, and then they put that on the burger. I will consume that burger with that delicious bun, and I will put ketchup, which is not paleo or anything for sure, it's just red pasty processed sugar. I will put ketchup on that burger to make it even more delicious. So, I don't fear a cheeseburger. However, I don't eat that breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3 meals a day. A very normal breakfast for me will be 5 scrambled eggs and then whatever fruit we happen to have in the refrigerator, whether it's blueberries or grapes, or we've got some oranges right now, so I'll slice an orange in half. My kids say that I say the word orange weird, and they make fun of me because I'm from New England. Orange. Isn't that how you say it? It's orange, and orange. So I'll take an orange, slice it in half, and I'll have that. That's a very common one for me as well. Lunch, we shop at Costco a lot. I know some places around the world don't have any idea what I'm talking about, but it's just a big grocery store kind of place. And there's some good rotisserie chickens that you can get there, chicken skewers, turkey breast, things of that nature. So we'll always have something like that in the fridge. I'll get that on my plate for lunch, again with with an apple or a banana, or so we've got some peppers in the fridge right now that we've been slicing up and eating, and we'll make something for dinner. The other night we had meatloaf. We had fish one night. Some baked sweet potatoes on the side. So most of that is how we eat. Really good, in all honesty. Could it be better? Probably, but it's pretty darn good. And then every now and then we're going out and get the cheeseburger. Oh, and if there's an option for sweet potato fries, I mean, come on, I'm going to order the sweet potato fries, and that's that. But most of the time, yeah, I try to stay away from that, just because if I do eat a lot of processed food or a lot of bread, the waistline will expand. I don't have any kind of special or magic genetics. The waistline will expand. I'm not naturally lean. That's for darn sure. It takes disciplined, intentional food choices. And so, yeah, we try to eat well. And I did weigh and measure my food for about 5 years, hardcore. And that really helped calibrate my eyes to what an appropriate portion of food was and what an inappropriate portion of food was, and the different glycemic loads of various foods. It was super helpful. I did the zone for about 5 years. And now I do break out the scale every now and then, but I break out the scale to make sure that I'm getting enough protein is usually what I do. So if I'm going to grab an apple or a banana, I just grab an apple or a banana. But if I'm going to throw some chicken breast or some steak or something on my plate, and I want to make sure that I'm getting, 6 ounces of steak, I'll break out the scale to make sure that I'm getting enough protein, because I don't want to get too little. So that's what I do right there. Oh no, coffee is running out of my mug. Okay, final question from Gabriella. Here we are. Oh yes, good question here. So Gabriella's basically asking that, let's see, she struggles when she programs for, she enjoys programming. She's a self-defined programming geek, which is awesome. Programming geeks unite. That she tends to have trouble not biasing her programming basically based upon what she enjoys doing. And that's super common, right? If you're writing workouts for yourself, it's really easy to include the stuff that you like, the time domains that you like, the lifts that you like, the loadings that you like, and not put in the stuff that you either don't like, or you struggle with, or you look bad doing, etc., etc. And basically, since I program the workouts for Linchpin, how can I do it and not be biased towards what I like? And can someone really not be biased programming for themselves? So, simple, short answer, can somebody not be biased programming for themselves? Yes. And there's the simplest answer I can give you. It's humanly possible, for sure, well within the realm of human possibility. That doesn't mean it might not be challenging. That doesn't mean it might not take some intentional thought, but it's certainly possible. And some people struggle with it more or less than others. Personally, I don't struggle with that at all when it comes to programming. I don't struggle at all. Programming stuff that just I like never even enters my mind. And I think that's because, I get it. Like, I really understand the CrossFit methodology and why it works, and the power of variance, and how incredibly beneficial and necessary true variance, not just what you like, true variance is for a general physical preparedness program. And without that, you are shortchanging your fitness. You are shortchanging the goods. Period. End of story. And so in my mind, that overrules any personal biases that I may have. And also, kind of getting back to what I said with Rob, the good old military mindset, I just tell myself, who cares? Who cares what I like? Does not matter. My personal needs or preferences are irrelevant and unimportant. What is important is accomplishing the mission and the objective, which is true, beautiful GPP. That supersedes anything else, and anything else is subservient to that. So that's kind of how I roll. But if you are struggling with this, and folks do, it's not uncommon, I would say there's a couple things that you could do. You could have yourself a checklist of various movements or movement patterns. If you didn't want to do specific movements, movement patterns may even be a better one. You could do time domains, loadings, rep ranges, whatever it happens to be, and then use that checklist, if you will, to go back as over what you've programmed, and are you neglecting something, you know? Do you hate big gymnastic chippers like Angie, 100 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 air squats, 100 sit-ups? Maybe you would never program that, right? Or Barbara, like we did the other week. High volume gymnastics, interval style, so nasty. Or most people hate sprinting and hate running. That's something most people would just never program for themselves. 400s, 200s, 100s, 800s. I mean, those are so easy for people to neglect. Or do you come from an endurance background and you love that stuff and you hate heavy weights and so you never go heavy? Everyone has those little things, so a list might be quite helpful for you. And then if you are lucky enough to have maybe a friend who is talented or knowledgeable in programming, it can be a great thing just to have that friend, send them what you wrote and have them sanity check it and see if they can't poke some holes, and then be like, did you happen to notice that you never go long, or whatever it happens to be? And that could be very helpful as well. So that's that. My children have yet another lacrosse game this weekend in another state, so we need to drive to another state. Holy cow. The demands of children's sports are just out of control. And so, getting back to kind of what you said a second ago, Melissa, we'll be doing food prep to the best of our ability because life is just throwing stuff at you. So, again, thanks to everybody out there in the Linchpin community for being awesome and amazing. We will... Oh, let's see here. Jose, I see you posted a question. I'm going to see if it'll expand. It won't expand. I can only see part of it, but it says, does it make a difference when doing cleans and snatches using a 6-inch noise pads? Gotcha. I think I can't see the rest of your question, but I'm going to guess if using these 6-inch crash pads makes a difference overall. I mean, the short answer is yes. If you are modifying the height from which you're pulling the object, most people can pull a bit more loading when the object is raised a bit off the ground than if it was truly from the floor. However, if you get crash pads because that's just what you need to do in your apartment, condo, family, and you got to lift and the crash pads are necessary, absolutely use them. I mean, it's far better to get in your lifting than to not get in your lifting. But what some people can do also is have the crash pads right in front of you, roll the barbell to just off the crash pad, right? So it's on the floor and the crash pads are right next to it. Do your clean, do your snatch, do whatever it happens to be, and while that lift is overhead, as long as you're capable and comfortable doing this, when you drop the barbell, you guide it down to the crash pad. So you're still getting the pull off the ground, but then they fall onto the crash pads. But if you're not comfortable with that, it feels unsafe to you, it's a bit too much, whatever, then just pull them off the crash pads. Fitness will be achieved. You'll be okay. All right. Oh, Danny, this was awesome. Good. Glad you liked it. All right. We will talk later. Have a great day. Enjoy your rest day. And have fun. Maybe if you eat a cheeseburger or something cool, post it in the Facebook group. Let me know.